superheroes to the Dandy Bugle, where I, Dandelion, interview members of the real life superhero movement on their involvement with hero work and public community service. Today, we have Yellow Cat joining the crime scene wearing their awesome yellow super suit, just like me. I very much like the yellow. Welcome, darling. I hope you're doing well today. Why don't you introduce yourself and describe the work that you do to the audience?
Thank you, friend. I appreciate your time and for having me. Um, my name is Yellow Cat, and I am Ohio's real life superhero. I go on various types of ventures, such as picking up trash, um, offering assistance to those in need in the area. It could expand to anything like donations or volunteering my time, doing whatever I can to help out in any means necessary. That's the goal.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you here. So to start the questions, who is your favorite fictional superhero and who is your favorite non-fictional superhero?
Favorite superhero has to go to Spider-Man. If I could choose anybody, it absolutely has to be Spider-Man. I love his humanity, his relatability, the lessons he learns about responsibility. Feels like I have a Superman that I can relate to in a way. Because we all love of Superman, but he's all big and heroic and already perfect. And Spider-Man's a bit more, kind of realistic to us, where he's like the little guy who's also looking out for the little guy in a way. And so Spider-Man for sure on the fictional part. Um, for non-fictional, um, do you mean a real life superhero or just a person? Oh, okay. I would have to go Mr. Extreme. I think Mr. Extreme is underrated, frankly. I think his service and everything he provided and what he stood for was incredible. And what he created with the Extreme Justice League started a huge movement in real life superhero work and definitely catapulted the awareness and the involvement that people got to have with this community for sure. So Mr. Extreme, definitely.
What inspired you to join the RLSH community? Was it your favorites that inspired you?
So what inspired me to join the RLSH community would it would have to go a long time ago. I was 11 years old watching Mr. Extreme, and his start in the Extreme Justice League and the real life superhero project, and I instantly fell into it. I loved it. I let a lot of life get in my way in between then, but later on in my adulthood, just recently, I may add, I found my way back to the real life superhero community and realized that that was where I belonged. So I guess I've just kind of always been here as a fan, if that makes sense. And just one day I decided that this really was what I wanted to do.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you came back to us because your suit is awesome and the work you do is awesome. What is your favorite parts about being in the RLSH community?
First off, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. And my favorite part is definitely having the like-minded people, like us who want to do this work and help without expectation of anything in return. That's quality to find in even normal people nowadays, people who are still generous and are still thoughtful to those who may not be thought of as often as they should.
What is your least favorite part about the RLSH community? What are some critiques that you have about us?
This is a big recent one, I love the new RLSH members, first off, because I am myself a new one, and you are as well. And I appreciate your work as well. But sadly, a lot of us aren't as informed as we are supposed to be before we start. And I can say I've made some mistakes. I've not learned things that I should have at times. And we can only learn and grow from here. But it's pretty clear that AI right now is an issue. It is very plain and simply hurting our environment. And when real life superhero members, they start out and they like to, take their pictures and like look cool. That's one thing, that's spend as much time on your costume as you'd like, but I think there's a real problem when you rely on AI to make yourself look cool instead of being a real life superhero and understanding that, doing that action hurts the environment. And it's not to say it like stains your career, but it doesn't look very good for you starting out, especially if you're trying to tell people that you care and that you want to help, because it's just kind of contradictory, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Um, so what was your first mission like? How did you feel going into it?
Well, I was very, very nervous, but I've had experience cosplaying before. I've done several different characters, so going out in costume, I'm kind of more used to it than others would be. So that wasn't a big deal. The big deal, I guess, was making sure I was somebody that people can trust, right? Because I understand I'm in a mask and I'm going around, you know, talking to people, waving, saying hi. Uh, you know, I don't want people to be afraid of me, which is why I kind of wear yellow and try to be all light, bubbly, happy, and inspiring in a way. That's yeah, it's really scary to kind of make that leap from just cosplaying a character to being a person with these ideals and good morals that you have to continuously uphold, whether you're in costume or not.
That's a very good point. Um, it can be very different, um, going from just cosplay to actually embodying a character and trying to do your best by them for other people. How do you decide where to patrol and do outreach?
So, how I decide to go out is first off my financial situation. I mean, if I can't go somewhere, I simply can't. So money is kind of the first factor. I get to as far as I can. Um, but I also take efficiency into account. I am starting out, but I kind of have a system now where I start in one place at a park and I just keep going from there. And I just try to accomplish and help at least in one way, however possible. And then whenever I go home, at the very least, if I couldn't help someone, I picked up a bag of trash.
What kind of tools do you carry when you're on patrol?
What kind of tools? So I am working on an investment for a big flashlight for later patrols in the night. But until then, I have band-aids on me. I have waters on me. So I mean not really tools, but they help. Um Trying to think, there was one more thing. I carry a variety of chargers around, in case somebody may need one and I can help them out. I might have to invest in a power bank for sure, but um the tools are kind of minimal at the moment. I don't really have many. I'm working on that part for sure.
That's okay. Not everyone has to carry everything they need with them, especially when they're first starting out. Do you think that like physical training or martial arts are necessary for hero work?
I absolutely believe if you do not know how to defend yourself and you are going out presenting to be a costumed hero, if your intentions are crime prevention or safety patrols, especially at night, there is no way that you shouldn't be learning at least a couple moves. And that's just for your own safety because at the end of the day, none of us want to get hurt. We all want to go home alive and uninjured. And some of us can't afford, big bulletproof vests and things like that. So if you're in areas of higher crime per se, or situations where you may have to resort to defending yourself, it is absolutely necessary to at least take a self-defense class. It doesn't have to be a crazy martial arts class or anything like that, but it could definitely save your life if you learn at least a few techniques. If anything, just off YouTube. Knowing something is better than knowing nothing. So I would say self-defense is top priority, uh, for sure. If you are wanting to make your ventures public and depending on the places and times that you go at, you absolutely should know how to defend yourself. And I made sure that I knew how to defend myself before I went out. And even I go in low crime areas to start out with to make sure that I can trust myself, to be ready in situations like that. And, practice as well. So yeah, it's necessary. You don't have to take a crazy class or nothing, but you should definitely learn a move or two for sure.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you're dealing with crime prevention. Like that is serious work and would require at some point possibly for you to have to defend yourself. So I understand where you're coming from. Um, do you think that the super suit is necessary for hero work?
Um, in a way, yes and no. And I'll say yes because I would sound like a hypocrite because I'm wearing a suit and I'm doing this, and that's the truth. I decided to advertise myself as a superhero. However, whenever I'm putting it on, I'm more so advertising the ideals, right? Like it's to inspire and let people know, hey, you can do this too. I'm just showing you, you can rely on me to do the right thing. But I say no to this mostly because there are many, many people who are already heroic and working hard to help and save lives that don't wear a costume, that show their face, that, go to their normal jobs every day. And, with no reason or incentive at all, they still go that extra mile and give whatever they've got to make sure that people are protected, taken care of, that our environment's taken care of, people are spoken out for and heard. These kind of people, they're the real heroes in my eyes. So I don't think a suit makes the hero. But I think if you're a hero, the suit is nice. I just think it's a theatrical flair, if you will, to make a dramatic example to shake people out of apathy. That's what I believe the costume does. But I don't believe that a costume is necessary to achieve that, if that makes sense. Like there's more than just the costume that makes the hero, for sure.
That's very understandable. Um, do you think keeping a secret identity is necessary for hero work?
Um, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I can understand why a lot of people would automatically want to keep their identity a secret, right? Because I want to keep my identity a secret. I know that. Someone found out today, so gotta
Oh,
do better on that part. But um I think people like Good Samaritan, for example, he's a superhero and he has his identity out there. He is who he is as a person and Good Samaritan at the same time. So I guess the secret identity depends on the comfort of the person, right? Like however that person identifies, that's what they want. That's their preference, and I more than respect that. Um, I guess there is the worry that if you're wearing a mask and people don't know who you are, you could be a criminal or, hiding. So there is a fear for sure about that, but I think it's just the person's choice at the end of the day. I think it's just whether they're comfortable or not with the public recognition. I don't really see it as fully necessary for everyone to go, anonymous and not know the real aliases. Of course, people, if they want to, can tell people who they are. So I think it's just kind of up to who's the hero there.
What makes a hero in your eyes?
What makes a hero in my eyes is someone who may be afraid to stand up for what's right, but does it anyways. Even with everything to lose or nothing to lose, this person still perceives in the eyes of justice. And it's kind of like the apathy thing I said, where you want to deflect apathy and inspire empathy in a way. That is what a hero is. A hero that sets an example, who may be scared to, but stand up anyways, and is unafraid to believe in what's right. That is what makes a hero to me, for sure.
What was the inspiration behind your suit?
So this is a failed comic book idea. I spent a lot of my time trying to get away from the idea of being a real life superhero and going towards a normal career. And I chose comic book writing. For quite a while, I was penning a story, Yellow Cat. That was the person. And as I started writing this fictional story that I was going to eventually turn into a comic, it started to become a little less sincere the more I wrote it, and it felt like more about me. Like I kept making this fictional character, and no matter how I wrote him, it always landed back to I'm Yellow Cat. And I mean, yellow's my favorite color, and I like cats. So I mean, this is a simple, why my name is Yellow Cat. But what really inspired me to be Yellow Cat in person, I guess, was seeing how much more use I could make of this than I could just dreaming and, writing stuff that I didn't really care to put anywhere out in the world or try hard enough to. This feels like it has the most impact. And this is the version of Yellow Cat I'm personally most proud of. So I guess that's what Yellow Cat is pretty much.
As someone who is a writer, I respect and understand where you're coming from. Embracing your characters is a very difficult thing to do, and it's very interesting, I will say, and I respect you for embodying your character in person as a superhero. Um, are you currently on, or do you ever plan on becoming a part of a superhero team? Like, have you ever collaborated with other superheroes?
So I haven't had the chance to do that yet. However, I do have upcoming plans. Um, I am headed to Gen Con in Indiana, and there is a certain team there named the Heroes Alliance. Got in contact with the animal, and it looks like we're definitely going to see each other there for sure. Uh, and I would really like to, if they have time to, go on a little patrol or something, or stick by him for a moment and just kind of learn the ropes from him, or I don't know, just get to meet another real life superhero face to face and get to know them better. That really kind of helps me feel a bit more official in a way, and also like I'm not alone and I have a support system too. So I don't have any teams I'm on at the moment officially. That would be cool, but I'm I'm not the only Ohio RLSH. There is Citizen Sentinel, but we're very far apart from each other, so we can't collaborate unfortunately at the time. So yeah, Heroes Alliance, if they would have me, I would love it, but if not, understandable, but I would just love to meet them, honestly. I'm excited for that. And Chicago Hope. I forgot the date, but I am going to that as well.
I believe Chicago Hope is on October 24th, and I will see you there. The I I also was in contact with the animal for quite a while. He is what helped me, or he is who helped me get into RLSH. He's a very good guy, and I'm very excited for you to meet him. You should tell him I say hi. Um, and I'm very excited for you to be able to meet the Heroes Alliance because I've heard that they're a very fun group. Um, how do you balance hero work with your secret identity?
All nighters. uh, kidding. So obviously, sleeping habits are a bit affected, but um, if I gotta be honest, it's really just going the extra mile. It's at the end of the day, I have a full-time job and I have, plans in my life I'm trying to fulfill, you know, as an adult, going into my late 20s. So I just try to make sure I do put my real life first. Hence why real life superhero, real life comes first. Because if I don't have that, I can't do this, if that makes sense. Not even just for the money, but, if I'm having apathy in me or some horrible feeling or something I'm going through and I'm not processing it, and I'm going out as Yellow Cat, that's, you know, posing a not good situation, and that's not responsible for me to do. So I just take it with responsibility in time. And when I have time, I'll go out. I took like a week and a half break because I had to sort some things out personally, but it's just finding the balance. And if you can't find the balance, just create it, I guess. I don't know. It's really just working around whatever I can. I will be Yellow Cat whenever I can, but for the most part, I do have to be my real life self at the end of the day in order to keep this going, you know?
Of course. Is trash pickup like the bulk of your work so far?
So at the moment, yes, and that's only because I'm trying to get more funding for um the donating part of my work. Just to be frank, this is a vow of poverty for sure. Um, and I just got to be careful to keep myself steady while I'm, promising services and telling people that, if they need something, I'll give it to them. I'm making a commitment that I have to fulfill. I just have to make sure I do that responsibly. So at the moment, yes, trash pickup is the bulk of my work, but I think it's very necessary and important to keep it along the way. Like, the more I'm able to donate and the more I'm able to do different things and different services, I at the very least can go home and be like, Oh yeah, and I picked up a bag of trash. Oh yeah, and I, made sure this park was clean. Because at the very least, when, if you fail at something, you can't fail at picking up trash. And I think with all these data centers coming out, it is super important to start caring about our environment. And we need to kind of stop this misconception that, if you go outside and have a trash bag and you pick up trash, it's just going to come back and nothing's going to change. That's not true, because I tested that out myself and kept picking up trash. I kept picking up trash out of costume. You know, walking to and from work, picked up trash. I picked up trash as Yellow Cat, and each time I come back to these spots, they don't get dirtier. So that is proof. If anyone can believe it, they should take it at that. That if that's what one person can do, imagine what a bunch of other people could do. And so that's why I really want to keep the trash pickup going the best I can, is to kind of just stay humble for sure. I'm not a big league superhero who can prevent, crimes and do all kinds of other crazy things with a bunch of money. But what I can do at the very least is make sure this place is clean, and try to help.
Of course. Do you wish that there were more RLSH heroes in your community?
I really wish there were. It would make this easier for sure, but I just wish that there was more people in specifically Ohio who, I guess there are people who probably do want to be a superhero, but they maybe feel too afraid to because of the way our society is over here. We had shadow hair back in the day, uh, late 2000s, I believe, like early 2010s. Shadow Hair was a hero in Cincinnati, and he was quite popular. But since him, it's not seemed like many or much of anyone in Ohio, besides me, Citizen Sentinel, as far as my knowledge, it seems like we're the only two who want to make a difference in an RLSH way, in a hero way. I think there is probably somebody who wants to be a hero and it's just scared or doesn't know how to, or maybe feels like they can't. And I just want to be able to tell that person, hey, you can do it. Because I know there's got to be someone who cares. I know that there are people out there who care as much as us real life superheroes do without being superheroes. There's organizations for, the unhoused and for LGBT, centers. There are people who care. I just think there are people who are probably scared to do this. And I wish they knew they didn't have to be. And that if they really wanted to do this, it is a lot easier than it looks. As long as you're being responsible, of course, but making a difference and helping is not hard. I wish people would realize that.
How would you like to inspire others into doing hero work, especially in Ohio?
Um, how I would like to inspire other heroes to do hero work is, you know, showing them that the effect is real. We've seen Skyline go to city council meetings and, publicly address these things. And that's kind of opened up a gateway to realizing that you can fight for what's politically right as a superhero as well, and stand up to bigotry, hatred, and injustice. I would just like to help them see that the effect is real, of course. I want to show them that there is something to believe in and that change is possible. It can happen, it has happened, and real life superhero work has been effective. Um, and people may interpret our work however they will, but I mean, it's very hard to say that the respected members at least aren't helping, because we do see it that they are helping. And it may not be as glamorous as it may seem for some people, and it may not be super actiony, or you may not even have the coolest costume in the world, but the feeling you get from doing this is incomparable, and it's a gift. It's a gift that I wish people could know the feeling of, for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the mental health run you participated in? Like, who organized it? I saw that on your Instagram.
Oh, yes. So, funny story. I was actually looking for the people on Love on a Mission, because it was a breadcrumb trail of research, right? Where I got myself out there and I'm like, all right, it's about to be Pride Month, and I myself am a member of the community, so I want to do my part in Ohio this summer. So that's where I started. I went to their building and they were closed, and I turned that into a silly video on my page. But I didn't give up, because I actually wanted to help them. I mean, like, they were just closed. I could just come back the next day, you know? So I looked them up and I went further into research and found that they were going to this event called NAMI Walks. And NAMI Walks is an event type of thing that it's not just in Ohio either. It's across America and across, some other countries too, where people raise awareness towards mental health services, you know, gather donations and fund these places that help people who are experiencing issues and, suffer things like, you know, losing a home or addiction, you know, PTSD, horrible things. You know, I saw that there was an event happening for a walk for mental health awareness, and I immediately wanted to do that. So they kind of just coincided. I could also do this, and while I'm there, at least I'll bump into them, right? So, um, I did bump into them, and they were very friendly people. They were very kind. Um, they gave me a free T-shirt, and I appreciate that so much. Like, the people are so big-hearted and kind, and I could say that about everyone that was at NAMI Walks, because it was a gathering of people who actively donated, spent their time helping, and showed up, you know, to raise awareness where we needed it most. And I definitely wanted to be a part of that, so I did my part and I walked with them in the blistering heat. But yeah, after that, I went around and introduced myself, and I wanted to make sure that the people of Ohio knew this summer that they have a superhero they could contact if they need any help or any assistance or any need of supplies or, perishables or anything that could help, you know. So it was just a big going table to table to table of being like, "Hi, I'm Yellow Cat. Do you need help this summer? Hi, I'm Yellow Cat. Do you need help this?" But regardless, it was such a great time with great, loving, open, thoughtful people who really actually care about what they're walking for. So it wasn't just, a walk around the block. It was people gathering together who were like-minded, who also donated their time, money, and that's kind of the essence of what NAMI Walks is about. Is
Are there any RLSH heroes that like you look up to in particular? Like, what would you want to say to them?
well, there was a man named Superhero who was very inspiring, and I feel like, yes, I love Mr. Extreme, of course, but if I'm deep down to my bones honest, Superhero set the precedent. I mean, he he was just a light, that kind of flickered the flame of RLSH in a way, and was kind of like the founding father of it in a way too. Um, I feel like whenever I learned about his passing, it was whenever I was getting back into the RLSH community, kind of segued from Skyline, he kind of brought me back to it. Um, After I found out his passing, I've looked at my life and I was like, he passed and I'm still here. So I feel like I have an obligation to keep on what he left here. And I feel like everyone else honestly feels the same way too, especially people who knew him. They just want to help carry on the legacy and help prove that this really did change lives and help people and that it's necessary. And I think if there is anything I could say to him, I would say thank you for being you and being unafraid. Being unafraid to look apathy in the eyes and say no. That was superhero to me. And if I could say anything, it just to thank him. And without superhero, there is no Yellow Cat.
That's a very great point. Superhero was an absolute legend. Well, I would like to thank you for taking the time to join me before we get to our final three questions. Thank you, Yellow Cat. Your work is very inspiring, and I hope you find more people to do this with and like engage in the community with because you deserve that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Dandelion.
So one of our final questions is, do you have an origin story? Like, what is your origin story? You've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but
Um, I will say some parts I did not mention. Um, if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, is there was a time period in my life where I was not treated the best. Um, I faced several kinds of bullying, judgment, harassment, abuse, in many different forms, in all different forms, in all honesty. And I kind of just accepted my role in my life. I was the nerdy guy who, just was picked on and whatever. And facing those issues young, um, without proper outlets, I led myself down a horrible path of apathy, I think. I ignored what, you know, what good RLSH did and what it stood for. And when I strayed away, I started leading a life I was not proud of, I can admit. And I'm only bringing it up because I think it's so important that I'm this now. Because if I weren't this, I would probably be worse. And it took a lot to shake me from my life of apathy, but it was the realization of my apathy that made me kind of leap from, you know, it was like my Uncle Ben moment in a way. I was just kind of careless and I was an adult, so I was just, leading a horrible life. And my Uncle Ben, was, I guess, my life in a way, my responsibility. It was stripped away and things just kept getting worse, and I never even wanted better for myself. I just wanted it to stop. But thinking about superhero, like I said, with him being gone, I feel like I would just waste my life more if I didn't turn it around wake up and realize I was meant to do this the entire time. Which sounds a little mentally unwell, but when you keep trying to avoid doing this your whole life and you always come back to wanting to do good and help, yeah, just accept it at this point. So I think my origin story was, you know, average bullied kid, led a life of apathy, accepted my role in life because I never strayed from this. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is my truest self in my eyes. I can finally say that I am who I'm destined to be. And I've never reached that point in my life until now. So that is why Yellow Cat is here.
That's great. I'm sorry to hear about the bullying. That is a major problem in most parts of this world, unfortunately. But I'm glad that people like you are coming out on the other side, good people still, because some people turn bullying and continue to bully others. It's a vicious cycle. What would you like to say to anyone who feels powerless in the face of the world's adversities?
If someone feels powerless, which is a universal feeling, even the most powerful leaders in the world are powerless to a bad day. Everyone, I guess what I want to say to the people who feel powerless is not only that everyone feels powerless, but if you do feel powerless and you feel like there's nowhere left to go or nothing left to do, at the very least, look to people like us. Look to people who you can love, trust, respect, and care enough in your life to be that strength for you, to help you, because nobody builds anything, like a house or Rome even, just by themselves. At the end of the day, you can solo it out as much as you want, of course, but truth, strength comes in numbers. And, if you're feeling powerless and you feel like what I've just mentioned, your support system, everything isn't there, look to us. Look to me, because I will always see it and I will always care. And I will always want to be here to tell that person that they aren't as powerless as they think and they are not alone, and that things can get better and are better in more ways than they think. It's it's wanting to be that help, and having that person who feels that way know that they can look up to someone, for sure.
There's only one final question, and it's a bit of a joke question. You do not have to answer it. Who is your secret identity?
um if you pinky swear not to tell anyone, I'm a Peter Parker from another dimension, and I lost my Spider-Man costume, and I got this. So I'm Yellow Cat, but I'm actually Spider-Man. Ah!
Well, thank you for coming onto the show. I'm very glad that you were able to make time for this. It was very great talking with you today.
Thank you. It was great to meet you and great to talk to you and to tell you more what I'm about, and raise awareness to Ohio's issues, too, at the same time. It was very great to get the chance to speak with you finally. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, Yellow Cat.
Yellow Cat out. Bye.